The desert heat was merciless. Nevada, 1972, July. The kind of heat that warps the air and makes steel burn your skin.
The set stretched across miles of dust and silence. Trailers lined in rows, equipment trucks idling.
Generators vibrating in the background. 80 crew members are already in position. Actors dressed, cameras mounted, grips adjusting sandbags, directors scanning their shot lists. Everyone is working. Everyone is ready. Everyone except one man. Bruce Lee was due at 6 a.m. sharp. No flexibility, no exceptions. The entire day revolved around him. Fight choreography with 3 stuntmen. Dialogue opposite Clint Eastwood. Precision shots that depended on soft morning light. By 9, that light would vanish. The timing would unravel. The budget would bleed. Every single person on that set understood that, everyone except Bruce Lee. Clint Eastwood stood beside the primary camera, arms folded, face unreadable. He was the lead, the reason the studio financed the film. But more importantly, he was disciplined. He arrived early, knew every line, hit every mark. He didn't gamble with other people's time. That was the rule, the quiet law of Hollywood. Break it and you don't last. 6 turned into 7. Calls were made. Bruce's hotel, no response. His agent, voicemail manager, out of reach. The sun climbed. The shadows shifted. The cinematographer grew anxious. They could pivot, shoot filler, grab cutaways. But the day had been designed around Bruce's sequence. Without him, they were setting money on fire. 7 became 8. Crew members sat on equipment cases. Actors disappeared into air-conditioned trailers. Craft services rolled out food no one touched. Clint didn't leave, didn't retreat, didn't sit. He stayed exactly where he'd been since dawn. 8 became 9. The golden light was gone, replaced by harsh overhead glare, deep shadows, useless for what they needed. The assistant director approached carefully. "We could reschedule, shoot interiors, try again tomorrow." Clint didn't answer. He stared down the empty road leading into the set. The road Bruce Lee should have driven down 3 hours ago. "We wait," Clint finally said. 9:15 a.m. Then, in the distance, a vehicle emerged through the heat waves, a trail of dust rising behind it. 9:15 a.m. The rental car rolled through the heat distortion like a mirage turning solid. Dust lifted behind it in a slow, drifting cloud. Conversations died mid-sentence. Equipment stopped moving. Even the generators seemed quieter. Bruce Lee stepped out wearing sunglasses and a calm expression, duffel bag slung over one shoulder. Casual clothes, not wardrobe, not ready, not rushed. 3 hours late. He walked toward the set at a normal pace, not running, not apologizing with his body language. Just walking, as if the morning had unfolded exactly as planned. The crew parted without being told to. 80 people formed a silent corridor. No greetings, no nods, no smiles, just heat and eyes. Bruce noticed something was wrong. He saw Clint Eastwood exactly where he had been since 6 a.m. Arms folded, boots planted in the sand, face still, controlled, watching. Bruce offered a quick smile. "Sorry I'm late, traffic was—" Clint lifted one hand, not aggressive, not dramatic, just final. "Stop." The word cut through the air, sharper than a shout. Bruce's smile faded. Clint didn't raise his voice. "I haven't stepped forward yet. I didn't need to. 3 hours. Silence. 3 hours we've been standing here." The assistant director looked down. The cinematographer avoided eye contact. The stunt performers shifted uncomfortably. Bruce tried again. There was confusion about call time. "My alarm didn't—" The hand stayed raised. "Stop talking." Still calm, still quiet. But underneath it, steel. "Do you know what 3 hours costs?" Bruce hesitated. Clint didn't wait for an answer. "It cost 80 people their time. It costs morning light we can't get back. It costs money the studio doesn't print for fun. It costs respect." The word lingered. Respect. Bruce felt the weight of it now. The heat no longer felt like the sun. It felt like scrutiny. "I can make it up," Bruce said quickly. "We can shoot now. I'll skip lunch. We can push through." Clint shook his head once. "No, not loud, not emotional, absolute. The light's gone, the schedule's broken, your scenes are postponed." Bruce blinked. "Tomorrow? If we can rebuild it." Clint finally stepped closer, not invading space, not threatening, just making sure the message landed. "This is a professional set," Clint said. "We show up on time, we do the work, we don't waste other people's lives." The crew felt it. This wasn't about ego, it wasn't about power, it was about code. Bruce nodded slowly. "It won't happen again, I promise." Clint's expression didn't soften. "You're right," he said. A pause. "It won't." Bruce frowned, confusion flickering across his face. He hadn't understood yet. Not fully. The assistant director swallowed hard. He knew where this was heading. The desert wind picked up slightly, brushing sand across boots and cables. No one moved to stop what was coming. Bruce tried one more time. "Clint, come on, it's one mistake." Clint looked past him briefly, at the 80 witnesses, then back at Bruce. "One mistake," Clint repeated. Another step closer. "You think this is about being late?" Bruce didn't answer. Clint lowered his voice even further. "This is about believing you're bigger than the work." That landed harder than anything else. Bruce's jaw tightened. Pride and realization fighting inside him. He glanced around at the crew. No sympathy in their faces, just disappointment. He had cost them their morning, their preparation, their precision. Clint held his gaze, 3 hours late in Nevada, and the real consequences were only beginning. Bruce stood there, heat pressing down on his shoulders, the weight of 80 silent witnesses behind Clint Eastwood. "It's one mistake," Bruce said again, but the confidence was gone now. The edge had softened. What remained was urgency. Clint didn't blink. "You think this is about a mistake?" He let the silence stretch long enough to become uncomfortable. "This is about standards." Bruce opened his mouth to argue, but Clint stepped closer, voice steady, controlled, lethal in its restraint. "Pack your bag, get out. 5 words. No yelling, no theatrics, no anger, just finality." For a moment, Bruce didn't process them. They hung in the desert air like something unreal, something that couldn't possibly apply to him. "Excuse me?" he said, almost laughing from disbelief. "You're done here," Clint replied. The crew stopped pretending not to listen. Grips froze mid-step. A camera assistant lowered his headset. The assistant director stared at the ground. Bruce Lee, international martial artist, rising action star, being fired, on the spot, in front of everyone. "You can't be serious," Bruce said, voice tightening. "The whole film is built around my scenes." "The whole film," Clint interrupted, "is built around professionalism." That word again. Professionalism. "You disrespected 80 people today," Clint continued. "Not me. Them." Bruce turned slightly, looking at the faces surrounding him. Some are uncomfortable. Some are sympathetic, most simply resigned. They had been there since dawn. He had not. "I'll apologize," Bruce said quickly. "Let me talk to them. Let me fix this. An apology doesn't give back 3 hours, Clint replied. "It doesn't restore lost light. It doesn't repair a schedule." His tone sharpened just enough to cut. "This is Hollywood. Reputation is everything. Yours just took a hit you can't afford." The assistant director finally stepped forward, hesitant. "Clint, maybe this should be handled privately. The studio—" Clint turned his head slowly. "The studio hired me to deliver a film. On budget, on schedule, with discipline. That's what I'm doing." No one argued after that. Bruce's jaw clenched. "I have a contract. You violated it," the assistant director said quietly. "Call time is written in. Page 4. Failure to notify is grounds for termination." Bruce looked at him sharply. "You're siding with this?" "I'm siding with the contract," the assistant director answered. Desert wind moved again, lifting dust across the ground between them. Bruce's confidence began to collapse inward. He had fought through racism, through rejection, through being underestimated in America. He had rebuilt himself once already. But this felt different, public, humiliating. "Clint," he tried one last time, "you're making a mistake." Clint's expression didn't change. "We'll see." The simplicity of it hurt more than anger would have. Bruce looked around again. 80 people. Not one stepping forward to defend him. Not one saying this had gone too far. He was replaceable. Everyone was. "Fine," Bruce said, bitterness creeping in. "I'll go." He adjusted the strap on his duffel bag, turning toward the parking area. The crew parted again, but this time the silence felt heavier. No one spoke. No one clapped. No one celebrated. It wasn't personal. It was procedural. Bruce reached his car, tossed the bag into the back seat harder than necessary, and stood there for a moment staring at the set, the trailers, the equipment, the people who had been ready to work with him. Then he got inside. Behind him, Clint turned to the assistant director. "Call the stunt coordinator," he said. "See if Tommy Chen can handle the dialogue. If not, we rewrite. No hesitation, no regret." Within minutes, radios crackled, schedules shifted. Pages were marked up with pen. A new plan began forming. The machine moved on. By 10 a.m., cameras were rolling again. Different shots, adjusted choreography, simplified dialogue, but rolling. Bruce's car disappeared into the Nevada heat, and the lesson had just begun. By the time the sun had climbed higher over Los Angeles that afternoon, the story of Bruce Lee's firing had already started to spread. Phones in every office were ringing. Murmurs carried through studio hallways and gossip filtered into every corner of Hollywood. Agents whispered. Lawyers read contracts. Producers discussed options. Every studio executive knew Bruce Lee had been late. 3 hours. And that single act had cost him more than a day's shoot. It had cost him credibility. Bruce sat in his small apartment, the heat of Nevada now replaced by the suffocating stillness of Los Angeles. The scripts that once stacked on his desk had dwindled to nothing. Calls that used to come every hour from interested producers and casting directors had stopped. Each unanswered ring was a reminder he had become untouchable in the wrong way. Box office poison. That was the term floating through the corridors, whispered by people who had never even met him. His wife, Linda, watched him silently from the kitchen doorway. Bills stacked neatly on the counter, rent coming due, expenses accumulating. She didn't scold, didn't lecture. She simply asked what he planned to do. Bruce's jaw tightened. The arrogance that once fueled him was now a liability he could not afford. I don't know, he said, the uncertainty heavy in his chest. For the first time in his life, he genuinely didn't know the next step. Meanwhile, his agent was in a frenzy. Phone calls to studio lawyers, inquiries to production offices, threats of legal action. It was a whirlwind. But each lawyer, each official, referred back to the contract. Call times, professional conduct, right of termination for cause, the clauses were clear. Bruce's tardiness had left him without legal leverage. Every avenue to argue his way back into favor had been closed. Word reached producers quietly attached to other projects Bruce had been slated to join. No dramatic firings, no public statements, just quiet exits. "We'll take another direction," they said. Budget constraints, creative differences, euphemisms for Bruce Lee is unreliable, not someone we can depend on. He had burned bridges in a matter of hours. Weeks passed. The phone remained silent. Meetings he thought were confirmed disappeared into voicemail. Producers who had once pursued him aggressively now declined outright. His bank account dwindled. His apartment felt smaller, the weight of failure pressing down from every side. Every day became a reminder of Nevada. 3 hours late, 80 witnesses, 5 words, pack your bag. Get out. Bruce replayed the events over and over in his mind. He remembered the way Clint had stood, unwavering, calm, professional, not a hint of hesitation. He remembered the collective silence, the crew watching, understanding that the line had been crossed and that consequences were absolute. It was more than discipline, it was a lesson. Brutal, clear, irreversible. He thought about Hollywood, the glitz, the promise, the fame. Everything he had worked toward suddenly felt fragile. Doors that were open slammed shut. Contracts were no longer negotiations. Opportunities that had once seemed infinite now felt finite. His reputation, once a shield, had turned into a liability. Linda placed her hand on his shoulder. "You'll figure it out," she said softly. He nodded, but couldn't summon the certainty he needed. Every plan he had relied on was crumbling. Every relationship, every connection, every promise seemed to vanish like dust in the wind. Hollywood had turned its back. And for Bruce Lee, that meant starting over entirely, without leverage, without influence, and without the security of past success. It was a stark, unforgiving reality. One mistake 3 hours late and a career he had meticulously built teetered on the edge of collapse. The lesson was clear, bitter, and unavoidable. Hollywood valued punctuality over talent, discipline over speed, respect over arrogance. Bruce had learned the hardest way possible. Even a global rising star could be rendered powerless in the face of professional expectation. And in that silence, in that vacuum of opportunity, Bruce Lee began to understand the fight wasn't just on screen. The fight for his career, his future, and his legacy had just begun. Weeks after the fallout in Los Angeles, Bruce Lee sat alone in his small apartment, the desert Nevada sun now a distant memory. The phone, once a lifeline buzzing with opportunities, remained silent for days. Scripts that had piled high on his desk were gone. Meetings that were once confirmed evaporated into voicemail. Every day he watched his bank account shrink, bills stack higher, and the realization settle: Hollywood had rejected him. Then came the call. Not from the glimmering offices of Hollywood, not from a studio executive or a producer obsessed with reputation. "I'm from Hong Kong, Raymond Chow." "Bruce?" the voice asked, calm, deliberate, yet carrying the weight of authority. "Yes," Bruce said, sitting up straighter, cautious but attentive. "I've heard what happened," Chow continued. "Hollywood. Your situation, I don't care about that. Only one thing matters. Can you fight on camera? Can you move? Can you deliver what audiences want?" Bruce paused. Then, without hesitation, yes. "Absolutely." Chow wasted no time. "I have a project. Small budget. Hong Kong production. Brutal schedule. 6-day weeks. You'll show up at 5 in the morning. You'll know your lines. Hit your marks. No complaints. You understand?" Bruce understood perfectly. And for the first time since Nevada, he felt control returning. Discipline, professionalism, respect, the rules that Clint Eastwood had forced upon him, became his armor. Within days, Bruce was on a flight to Hong Kong. The big boss awaited. The work was grueling. Days began before sunrise. Sets were chaotic, resources limited. 6-day weeks tested stamina. But Bruce Lee arrived early, every single day ready, lines memorized, choreography perfected, lunch skipped if needed, stay late if necessary, no drama, no excuses. The crew noticed. Rumors spread quickly through the Hong Kong industry. The same man who had been publicly fired in Nevada was now the most reliable professional on set. Discipline had replaced arrogance. Respect had replaced entitlement. Hunger replaced overconfidence. Word traveled fast. Producers, directors, stunt coordinators, all watched Bruce Lee's transformation. He had rebuilt his credibility from the ground up, not through negotiation or ego, but through action. Each day he showed up on time. Each day he mastered his scenes. Each day he earned respect. The big boss became a test of his reinvention. Low budget, rushed production, harsh conditions. Bruce Lee transformed it into a showcase of professionalism, talent, and relentless work ethic. Every frame, every fight sequence, every stunt performed with precision. By the time The Big Boss was released, Bruce Lee had not only reclaimed his reputation but enhanced it. Box office records shattered. Critics took notice. Word of mouth spread like wildfire across Asia. Hollywood, once cold and silent, began calling again. But this time Bruce held the power. No longer desperate, no longer arrogant, he remembered Nevada. The heat, the 80 witnesses, Clint Eastwood's calm authority, those 5 words, "Pack your bag, get out." They had burned into his consciousness, shaping every decision thereafter. Now, in Hong Kong, Bruce Lee was untouchable. His transformation was complete. He had learned the hard way. Professionalism, discipline, and respect were more powerful than talent alone. And the man who had fired him in Nevada had unwittingly given him the greatest gift, a lesson that no success could replace. Bruce Lee had started over. He had been humbled. He had been forced to respect the work, the craft, and the people who made it possible. And in doing so, he became something Hollywood could not ignore, a legend in the making. By 1973, Bruce Lee had rebuilt not just his skills, but his reputation. Hollywood, which had once dismissed him as unreliable, now came knocking again. Warner Brothers called, offering a film with a real budget, international release, co-production between Hong Kong and Hollywood. Everything Bruce had ever wanted: creative control, choreography input, story influence. The power had shifted. But Bruce remembered Nevada. He remembered the heat, the 80 witnesses, the 3 hours, and Clint Eastwood's unwavering stance. That memory had carved a line in his mind. Professionalism wasn't optional. Respect wasn't negotiable. Call times mattered. The schedule mattered. Every person mattered. Before signing, Bruce set one non-negotiable condition. The set had to be professional. Every call time is respected. Every schedule is honored. No prima donnas. No excuses. Warner Brothers agreed. The film, Enter the Dragon. From the first day of shooting, Bruce arrived 2 hours early, always lines memorized, moves rehearsed. He worked through lunch, stayed late, and perfected every scene. The crew watched a different Bruce Lee now, disciplined, focused, relentless. The arrogance that had once led to his downfall in Nevada had been replaced with determination and respect. The film progressed smoothly, under budget, on schedule. Every fight sequence is precise. Every camera angle is intentional. Bruce had turned his personal lessons into professional mastery. No one dared doubt his commitment. And yet, the shadow of Nevada lingered. Bruce never forgot those 5 words that had changed everything. Pack your bag. Get out. They reminded him daily that talent alone meant nothing without respect for the craft, the crew, and the rules that governed their world. Entering the Dragon would make Bruce immortal, but it was more than fame or fortune. It was validation of everything he had learned the hard way. The lesson from Nevada had become his foundation, his code, his edge. The world watched. Bruce Lee, once a young martial artist fired for being late, now a global icon commanding respect and attention, had returned stronger than ever. Hollywood wanted him. Audiences adored him. But he never forgot the man who had forced him to learn what professionalism truly meant. Nevada had humbled him. Hong Kong had refined him. And now, with Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee's power, discipline, and legacy were undeniable. The student had become a master, not only of martial arts, but of survival, respect, and triumph over those who doubted him. It was a quiet afternoon in Montana, far removed from the desert of Nevada and the bustling streets of Los Angeles. Bruce Lee had driven 8 hours, the long stretch of highway giving him time to reflect. Enter the Dragon had been signed, shot, and released. The film was a global phenomenon. His name was now spoken with reverence in Hong Kong and Hollywood alike. Yet there was one person he needed to see before fully closing that chapter: Clint Eastwood. The assistant director, recognizing Bruce, stiffened. "He's in the middle of a scene," he said. "Maybe you could come back later." Bruce shook his head. "I'll wait," he said calmly, standing off to the side, observing. Guns clashed, dust kicked up by galloping horses, and Clint moved through the scene with his signature, precision. Fluid, efficient, unyielding. Every move is exact, every gesture is measured. Professionalism embodied in a single man. When the scene wrapped, Clint turned. Their eyes met. For a moment the air between them was heavy with history. The Nevada desert, the 80 witnesses, the 3-hour delay, the 5 words that had reshaped a life. Neither moved, neither spoke. The past was alive in that silence. Finally, Bruce stepped forward. "I came to say thank you." Clint raised an eyebrow. "Didn't expect that, after everything." "Yes," Bruce said steadily. "You fired me. Best thing that ever happened to me," he continued, voice unwavering. "I was arrogant. I thought I was bigger than the work, bigger than the team. You showed me I wasn't. You showed me nobody is." Clint listened, silent. No interruptions, no judgment, just presence. "I went to Hong Kong," Bruce continued. "Started over, showed up on time every day, respected the work, respected the people, built something real, something I earned. I needed that lesson. I need to understand what professionalism actually means." Clint's expression softened just slightly. Not a smile, not a concession, but acknowledgment. "You learned it?" he asked. "Yes," Bruce said. "I did." They stood there, 2 professionals, 2 men who understood the sacrifices, the discipline, and the work required to succeed. Clint nodded. "I heard about Enter the Dragon. Congratulations." "Thank you," Bruce replied. "I'm going to make it count. Show up on time every day. Honor the work." Clint extended his hand. Bruce shook it firmly. Respectful, balanced, equal. Before leaving, Bruce paused, turned back. "Those 5 words you said, pack your bag, get out. I think about them every single day. They were worth saying. They changed everything." Clint said nothing. The acknowledgment was silent but complete. Bruce left. Drove back to Los Angeles, ready to step fully into his legacy. Every first day on set afterward, he arrived 2 hours early. Every day, first to arrive, last to leave. Every day, I am disciplined, professional, and respectful. Enter the Dragon wrapped on schedule, under budget, flawless. Bruce Lee became a legend, not just for his speed, his strength, or his talent, but for understanding the discipline, respect, and professionalism that Clint Eastwood had forced him to learn in a Nevada desert, in front of 80 witnesses, 3 hours late, with 5 words that would echo for the rest of his life. From that final meeting in Montana to the last shot of Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee's journey was complete. Humiliation had forged him, discipline had sharpened him, respect had immortalized him, and the lesson from Nevada, pack your bag, get out, remained tattooed on his soul forever.